And I think it's the same with yourself. If you don't act like you love yourself, then, the words won't matter.
There's an even greater sense of love in the acceptance of the journey, the acceptance of the ups and downs, the willingness to work with yourself when you're feeling like you're a little hard to work with. Welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Podcast. My name is Juliana, and this is my co-host,
DC.
And we are both certified consulting hypnotists. DC is board certified. I am hopefully soon to be board certified. And this podcast is just us talking about whatever topics really interest us most. So sometimes we'll talk about hypnosis, and sometimes we'll talk about other things, but we're very philosophical and spiritually interested. So that's going to be a lot of what we cover, probably.
So let's get into our topic, I think, right?
Yeah, so this week we are talking about self-love.
Yes.
I was thinking we could start by defining what it means to us.
Yeah, okay.
So, what does self-love mean to you?
I mean, literally, it means to really just feel love for yourself. And all right, this isn't the only thing, but a few minutes ago when I was like, okay, we're going to be talking about self-love. And I was like thinking, you know what? I really do love myself. I haven't always loved myself, but sometimes it's as simple as telling yourself, I love myself. And the more you tell yourself you love yourself, the more likely you're going to start feeling that, right? Mm-hmm. There is something to, fake it till you make it. In other words, if you keep thinking that and saying it to yourself, the more you do it, the more you feel it. So on the one hand, it's simply actually even just telling yourself, I really love myself. I really do love myself. And I'm not, and I again, I think I've always, quote unquote, loved myself to a certain extent, but there were also times when, I couldn't stand myself, and I really don't have that anymore. I've had that, I've experienced that. But, what is self-love? I think a big part of it is literally taking a moment to tell yourself that and really feeling it.
So to you, it's really about feeling and the words that either invoke that feeling or are inspired by that feeling.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. It's also how I treat myself. If you love yourself, you have to treat yourself like you love yourself, right? You have to treat yourself like you would treat someone you really love, someone else you really love.
Yes. Well, I agree, but I was basically just restating what you were mostly focused on, which was like the feeling of love and words of affirmation.
That is definitely a big part of it.
Yeah. I was going to say that for me, a lot of it is about how I treat myself. I think the actions
speak louder than words.
Speak louder than words for me. Yeah, especially. I feel like the journey of self-love for me has evolved through me making the decision to take care of myself, even when I don't feel like it, and understanding that sometimes the inability or unwillingness to take care of myself in certain moments is connected to a lack of self-love or self-hatred or I don't know, hatred feels like it's not quite the right word, because while I might have felt that at times in my life, it's not always hatred, it's not always that strong, but it's more like a feeling of unworthiness.
Yes.
A feeling of, I don't deserve to feel good or to do things that would help me feel good.
Right.
Or to take care of myself, even if it's not what I'm thinking. And that's where I think that while I agree that the feeling and the words also matter, and the way that you speak to yourself in your mind also matters, it's almost like for me, I feel like a lot of the experience of either self-love or a lack of self-worth, we'll say, was more like subconscious and like in my body in the way that taking an action was more likely to help me move into a space of greater self-love, if that makes sense.
It does make sense in this way. I agree that a lack of self-love is often like subconscious. You're not even aware that you don't love yourself, and you're not treating yourself well, and you're not putting yourself first, and you're not making yourself a priority. And I also agree that actions speak louder than words, because I also feel that way with other people's love toward me. You know, you could tell me you love me, but if you don't act like you do, then I'm not going to believe you. And I think it's the same with yourself. If you don't act like you love yourself, then, you know, the words won't matter.
Now, this is all reminding me of the concept of love languages. Have you heard of that?
That sounds familiar, but like, what is it? Is it a book or something?
So, I don't, there's probably a book on it. I haven't personally done a lot of research on it, so I don't know if it originated from like a psychological concept or if it was just some sort of like BuzzFeed pop psychology thing. Or either way, I think it kind of morphed into a bit of that. And now people just throw it around on the internet all the time without really like again, I don't really know the origin of it, but the idea is that there are different love languages, and some people have more of an inclination towards one or another. And I don't know if it's originally supposed to be about how you prefer to show love or how you prefer to receive love, but I think you can think of it in terms of both. So some people might prefer physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, gift giving, and there might, I don't remember if there's another one, but there might be an inclination that you have to show your love with words of affirmation, but maybe you prefer to receive love as like gifts and physical touch, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I feel like you can apply that almost, I mean, and that might not be, like, I don't know if I fully believe that in myself, but it does help to have the language to communicate, oh, you know what, when I feel like I'm missing something from a relationship, why is that? What am I expecting of the other person? What am I...
So you're saying, like, that might indicate how, like, you're maybe neglecting yourself, in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you can kind of use that concept to both communicate more effectively with other people if there's some kind of imbalance in relationship that you perceive. It might just be because someone else has different ways of showing their love and you have different associations with them. So it can be helpful to both communicate in a relationship with another person, but I feel like you can also apply that to yourself as well. So when you feel like you're missing some form of love or you're trying to figure out how to show love to yourself and what you respond to, you can use the same principle and say, well, you know, what would I want someone else to do for me? And maybe I'll take that step. Like words of affirmation, maybe affirmations really would be helpful for you, writing out.
Well, I mean, me personally?
No, in general.
Oh.
Like the general you.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you personally. You did bring that up first.
No, well, it's more like telling yourself that and really feeling it. Like getting that feeling inside, like, you know what? Yeah, I really do love myself. I'm a great person, and you know, and I am worthy, and I am whatever, you know, like feeling that positive feelings about yourself. But you did bring something else up though that made me think of how, like, if what do I recognize in how somebody else loves me is, I know that I just worded that really awkwardly, but like, how considerate is the other person of me? Like, so if a person considers my feelings and considers what I might want, what might work for me in a certain situation, or what might make me happy, that feels like love. And it doesn't have to be lavish or extravagant. It's more like taking my feelings and me, who I am, into consideration in your own like actions or words. So if I'm going to feel that way with the way how other people treat me and consider me, then it kind of works the same way for me, being considerate of myself. What works for me? What works for my energy?
Yes.
What works for the type of person I am? You know, there are certain things that just don't work for me. And if I force myself to get involved in them or do them, then I'm not really showing myself a lot of consideration.
Yes.
And in turn, self-love.
Yeah. And I feel like it can kind of work in the way where, like, becoming conscious of that, let's use that specific example that you just gave of consideration. So wanting consideration from others as a form of love, where you may or may not have control over how much consideration someone else has for you in a moment.
Right.
But when you're wanting to receive that for yourself, checking in with yourself and asking yourself how much consideration you're giving you. And I feel like the more you practice like that consideration for yourself, that could also translate to other people's treatment of you shifting. Because the more considerate you are of yourself, the more you might be willing to speak up and say, you know what, I actually don't think I'm up for this today. You know, I need this, I need that. You know what I mean? And
yes.
by speaking up for that, other people become more aware of your experience. They might even subconsciously start to accommodate and consider more.
That's a really, really good point. Right. So if you show yourself self-love, if you love yourself and you show it and you act like it, other people are going to pick up on that, both in the physical realm of seeing how good you are to yourself, but also energetically, your self-love, that vibe, that's a high vibe. Love is a high vibe, and including self-love. So people are going to pick up on that vibe.
And there's less of like an externalization of like, I need this from someone else. And it's more of like I trust that I have this consideration because I give it to myself. So if someone isn't considerate of me, well, good thing I can be considerate of me because I don't have to rely on their consideration. But through that, I feel like people are you're much more likely to perceive when other people are being considerate, and also stand up for yourself so that people get the point of like, oh, this is how this person wants to be treated because this is how she treats herself.
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of led right into the, like, it has to start with you, right? Because if you don't love yourself and you don't feel worthy of loving yourself, then it's hard for maybe others to love you the way you deserve to be loved, because it starts within. You know, it starts within. You have to love yourself. You have to feel worthy. And just by virtue of the fact that you exist makes you as worthy as anyone else on this planet.
Yes, it really is. Like, it's a matter of honestly just accepting that and starting to move and think and act as if that is true, even when you don't feel like it. And that's where sometimes self-love could feel like hard work, when there are days when you notice yourself just not feeling that worthiness and having to choose, am I going to act on that unworthiness? And in that case, if you do choose that, are you going to accept yourself anyway and just say, you know what? Like, I'm not going to do something that I know is healthy for me or to take care of myself. Can I accept that? Can I consciously say, I'm going to let that happen, but I'm also going to accept myself and my own feeling of unworthiness? Or are you going to choose to act in a way that you know is healthier and maybe actually is going to bring you out of that feeling? And I feel like either way, that can be an act of self-love. I feel like you can kind of mind trick yourself into always being in a state of self-love by even just saying, you know what, I'm just going to accept where I am right now, even if it's not necessarily an aligned space.
And you know, it's funny. Everybody is totally different, and however you do it is fine for you, right? But when you're saying that, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to accept that. Like, you know what I mean? Like in the moment.
Yeah. We're a little bit different like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You are more like accepting of, oh, these are my feelings. And I'm more like, you know, no, I don't feel that way. And I'm going to change that right now. You know, so for better or worse, it's neither. Everyone is completely unique and different. So everyone's going to have their own way of dealing with it. The only thing I will say out of this whole thing, which I did touch on before, and I want to say it again, is that just by virtue of the fact that you exist, you should love yourself. Because, again, if you don't love yourself, then it's hard for others to love you. And I don't know. I mean, it's obviously goes from degrees of like, there are people who, you know.
Well, and we did kind of already, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
We did kind of already touch on, like, sort of, in a roundabout way, why it could be hard for someone to love you if you don't love yourself. But let's dig into that a little bit more, because I feel like that can get sort of misconstrued. Like, why would it be, like, I think a lot of people are kind of sick of being told, oh, in order to be loved, I have to love myself first. But I feel like what we mean when we say that is really more that it's hard for you to, even when someone wants to love you, if you don't love yourself, it can be hard for you to accept that love and then open up to receive it. And just like I was saying before as well, with showing people how to love you by loving yourself enough to know what you need and want and standing up for that.
Right.
And
right.
expressing that and being open to that. That can help invite people to love you in the way that you will receive and in the way that you want to receive it, just by virtue of showing them and being able to express that to people so that they can act on it. Mm-hmm. And whether that's by directly verbally asking for it or by just moving through the world in that way so that people just pick up on it and
yes.
subconsciously respond to that. And that's, I think, what we're really talking about. Because inherently, no matter what, no matter if you feel like it or not, you're always worthy of love. You are always loved, whether you believe, I mean, maybe you don't always believe that, but I tend to believe in, like, love as, like, sort of the baseline energy of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I like to conceptualize life. And so by that belief, I believe that everyone is always loved. And it's just a matter of whether we feel it in the moment or not, but it's always there. And so it's not that love is something that you're earning. You never have to earn it. It's just there. It's something that you learn to accept into yourself and accept into your experience. And it's just a matter of how you'll let that in, and will you notice it when it's there, and will you invite it more and more into your life? You know, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that, I mean, it kind of brings us back to, you know, it's hard to allow it and be okay with it and allow it into your life when you don't really feel it for yourself.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I think that I don't know. I was going to say, I think that most people actually do love themselves. I think it depends on, like, what degree. And then I think some people love themselves but don't like themselves. So then they kind of cut off the love to themselves because there's something they don't like about themselves. You know,
yeah, so you're saying, like, maybe hone in on a specific aspect
yes,
of themselves.
Yes.
It's not like a general feeling of I don't love myself and maybe you don't even know why. It's like a specific, I don't like this about myself and it's hard for me to...
Right. Like, you wouldn't be human if you didn't have something that you wanted to improve, you know, related to yourself or you know,
or
something
expand on in your life.
Expand, change. And because actually, I mean...
I
I obviously don't know for sure, like, the meaning of life, but I think one of the points of it is, you know, change and growth and, you know, the next thing, the next level or what have you. So
because whether you're, it's not just self-growth, but whether you're into, like, self-growth and spiritual expansion and things like that, or you're just living your life, usually there's something that you want, something that you are going after, or at the very least seeking in your day-to-day life.
Right.
Big, small, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there are always things that we want to change and expand on and grow and whatever. You know, it's kind of like, you know, and when there is nothing left, then it's probably, you're probably done. So,
and I feel like this dislike of yourself sometimes manifests as a result of that desire to grow and change, and maybe a feeling of sometimes, not in every case, a discouragement that you somehow aren't able to change.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
What's, you know, I mean, you know, then, you know, you can get into the whole, like, comparison of yourself. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be like this person? Why can't I be like that person? You know, and
that's where it loops back around to then accepting yourself in the moment and not needing to change in order to love yourself, right? There's that unconditional love again, this idea of, like, with the things that I like and dislike, I can feel how I want to feel about that. But that doesn't mean that love isn't there. Can I access that and still grow? You know, I think sometimes people use their dislike of themselves to catalyze their growth. And I don't think that's necessarily always a bad thing, but I do feel that a lot of people do reach a point where it doesn't work anymore because it doesn't really fill the hole, because if they're continually finding things that they don't like about themselves and then feeling like they have to get out of that, that can be an exhausting place to be.
Okay, so that you brought up a whole bunch of things, but,
but
I don't remember all of them, but
go with the
but the most recent one was awareness. You have to even be aware of it. I mean, like I could look back and say, I didn't really always love myself, and but it wasn't like, first of all, I wasn't really aware of it, and second of all, I don't even know if that's true. I think like things come in waves and come and go. So I think there were plenty of moments and stuff where I didn't love myself, but I don't think that I didn't at least respect myself.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Self-respect, I feel like that's an important one too.
It is. It is. I mean, honestly, it could probably be its own topic because just
what
respect in general.
Mean? And
yeah.
Honestly, we should talk about respect one of these times because it's something that I feel like there's an intuitive, just like with love, there's this intuitive idea that I usually have about these things, and then when I tease it out more, it's like, what are we really talking about? Because I feel like love can be, when you're talking about love, you can be talking about actually different things.
Exactly.
It's just like, what version of it are we talking about right now? And I feel like for us, we touched on like the feeling of love, and also, I think we focused more on love as an action, or love as something you do, a way that you, like how you show it to yourself. You
know what? How about if this is okay with you, I don't want to bulldoze here, but why don't we bring it back to like self-love again, and maybe right after we're done with this, we could do part 2 and talk about respect. Yeah. All right. Part 2, respect. But right now, let's bring it back then literally to self-love, because I think it is. I think it has to do with how you feel about yourself and how you treat yourself. So we're talking about feelings and action. Yeah, and I feel like, again, like for me, I think we talked a bit more about your feeling of, okay, I want to know that people are being considerate of me. Right, me and my feelings, and right. But I don't think we talked about what I need, I don't think we did. Maybe I can get into that a little bit. So for me, I mean, like if we were going by love languages, I was talking to Taylor, my sister, about this the other day, but we were both feeling like, I feel like all of the love languages are important to me, But I feel like the most important ones, I feel like they're all important to me because there are times when I can notice myself feeling like I'm satisfied in one area because I have enough, say, quality time with someone, or enough to like, I've received enough gifts or whatever. And for me, gift giving, I think, would be more in consideration. Like, it's not really gifts that that are super important to me. It's more like the consideration that goes into the feeling behind it. The intention. The feeling behind it and the intention. It's not really something that I focus on more. I think physical touch and words of affirmation are maybe more important than that, and quality time. And so it's like, say I'm feeling like someone, tells me what they think of me in a positive way a lot, but I don't get a lot of hugs, then I might feel like deprived because I want more hugs. Your human design, you need hugs. Yeah. But then if someone gives me a lot of hugs, but they don't say a lot like, hey, you know what, you're great and you're really important in my life, then I might feel deprived in the sense of like, I need more words of affirmation. So for me, I think it shifts and changes. Yeah. And so for me, I feel like the self-love, maybe that's where attention to detail and attention to who I am and where I'm at in the moment is important to me. That's how I want to receive love, and that's how I want to give love to myself, by being attentive to where am I at in the moment. Maybe that means asking myself the question, what do I need right now? Maybe that means I'd like someone else to ask me the question, what do you need right now? If they don't know, if they're not picking up on cues, if they're not noticing. Like, I feel like when people just notice the little details, and it's like, maybe they pick up on something I'm not even conscious of, and realize that I need like a word of encouragement, or maybe they notice that I need a hug, or they just want to give me a hug. I feel like that's something that I also do for myself, and have learned to do for myself more, is be attentive to, right now, this is what I need, because it always changes. So that might be like a good exercise or habit for someone who maybe wants to become more, self-aware about how they love themselves, how they treat themselves. Like, what do I need right now? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, as far as other people, chances are, unless there's something going on in your life that maybe isn't so great, people aren't just going to be like, you're not just going to be kind of hanging out in alignment and someone's going to be like, what is it that you need right now? Because they're going to sense that you're in alignment. So they're not going to, right? But as far as yourself, I think that's a great question. What do I need right now?
Well, and I think that it comes down to also maybe there's this, when I'm not in alignment, there's this desire to have someone be able to meet my needs even if I don't voice them.
Yeah.
Or be able to, want to say, hey, you seem like you're not really doing your best. Like, is there something I could do to help? I do feel like because I have become so much more attentive to myself, sometimes I'll step in before someone else can for me. I know what I need. And so...
And I think that's fine, though.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of independence there that
I think that's good.
Is really important,
I agree.
Because it's something that I don't want to have to rely on other people for in every moment.
Well, I think that's where the importance of self-love comes in, because even though we are, as human beings, meant to like interact with each other, we're meant to like be social. We're social beings. Some people are more social than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine, right? But you don't want to rely on someone else for your self-worth, for you to care about yourself, love yourself, take care of yourself. You really do have to prioritize yourself.
And I think it's a balance, right? We were just talking about how when you shift your attitude towards yourself, it can shift others as well. And
right.
I feel like there's a way in which it depends, I guess, on how you think of it, right? Because I could think of it as, say you think of it as your relationship with the universe, and the universe works through you and everyone and everything that happens, right? So with that idea, if you shift your attitude towards yourself, then you might receive more love and affection and attention in the way that you want from other people naturally, because you're also giving that to yourself and you're also open to receiving it. And so it's kind of like it's just going to become your reality. It's going to become expected. And so it might come from other people sometimes when you need it, but it's not necessarily going to be because you're relying on a specific other person to give you this thing that you feel like you lack without them, right? It's because you feel like this is part of your reality. So of course someone would be there for you when you need them, because the universe is never going to let you be on your own because you believe that.
Right.
And so you experience that, right?
Yeah. Like, so for me,
it's independence that also involves the external and others as well, because they're all part of...
Well, of course. Yeah.
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 The cooperative components, shall we say.
Yes. Yeah. So like for me, I'm sure it's not the only thing. It's just the thing that came to mind. But like people being considerate of me and, what I want or what I might need in the moment, that shows love. Then I have to be considerate of myself. So I have to consider what works for me, what works for the kind of energy I have in the moment or not. For me, it's kind of like not overcommitting, I think when I am being inconsiderate of myself, I tend to overcommit my energy and then, end up depleting myself or feeling resentful or being annoyed with myself or something like that. So, treat yourself like you want others to treat you, right? Yeah. Do unto yourself as you would have others do unto you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah. And of course, we're specifically focused on self-love here. So we're not talking about how, we would love other people. But I feel like there's a natural...
Right. No, well, that's what I'm saying. Do unto yourself as you would have others do unto you, right? So I want... you mentioned that question early on. You made me question that early on with something that you said. And I was like, oh... Well, from other people, I want consideration, so I should be giving that to myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I was just talking about how we love other people then, how we extend. So rather than self-love, like giving love.
Right.
To other people. So, well, I was I was getting to that.
Oh,
So,
okay. So changing the subject.
no, I was going to bring it back around. Now
Okay.
I think I've lost a bit of my thread that I
Okay.
was following, but I was just going to say, because we're talking about self-love, we're just focused on how we love ourselves and how we might also receive that love from other people in the universe and whatnot. But I feel like that also can naturally link to how then you express love to other people. I feel like being open to your own, and this is where I think like maybe people get the idea of you can't love anyone until you love yourself, which I don't really like. That sounds like a bit. I think it can sound a bit harsh and just like
And cliche.
Yeah. But I feel like
But there's something to it.
the value in exploring self-love and the connection that has to then how you express and give love to others is that when you are more aware of yourself and how you feel about yourself, what you need, when you're considerate of yourself, when you're giving yourself the things that you want to receive, I feel like that can open you up to be more aware and open-minded about other people, what they need, and what and also the ability to communicate more openly about that with others, to ask people what they need without assuming, or to be more in tune naturally with that, because you're much more in flow and in tune with yourself. And I feel like that can translate sometimes to being more in flow and in tune with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, well, self-love is a big component of being aligned, energetically aligned to having a high frequency, right? So, and that does extend out.
And if you align with ideas like high frequency and vibration, or you don't have to use that word. Like I personally, actually, these are words that you'd like to use. I personally don't really like that language. That I don't really gravitate towards that language. It doesn't resonate as much with me. But I know what you mean. And like, I also align with the idea that, like, it's like, for me, there's like an idea of being in aligned with something so that you're able to receive it. It's like being in flow state. To me, alignment is like flow state, right? When things are just clicking and you just feel like you're going, everything's falling into place and you just feel at peace with everything that's happening. And I feel like that's when you reach a state where like you don't have to think about the concept of self-love. You just are love. You are, and people can feel that.
I mean, I think we touched on that earlier. Well,
Yeah.
people can feel that because of your frequency, because of your aura, because of the energy you emit, because everything in the universe is energy. Everything.
Yeah. And to be clear, that terminology, I don't think it's like inaccurate or anything. It's just not the language that I think of it.
Which is fine.
It's not how I think of it. It's not, yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, sometimes when we talk, it might sound like we're very much alike, but we're very, very different. And we'll touch on that. That will be another topic for another day.
Honestly,
our designs.
If we end up disagreeing a bit on this podcast at times, I feel like that'll be probably very interesting for our listeners to hear, and to hear how we I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. I know. I'm just imagining.
I think it's important especially because I don't think we necessarily disagree, but we like think about things and come to the same conclusions in different ways. And I feel like that's how a lot of people are.
Listen, we are designed totally different, and it's okay if we don't see things the same way. No two people see things the same way.
Yeah.
So, and that could be another topic. But
and when you say designed, which I'm sure we'll talk about more, you're referring to human design, which is,
I've mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah, which is another thing where like things that you say definitely resonate with me about it, but it's also not like my preferred approach and like way of thinking about life. But then there are also useful things that have come from it for me too.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about those.
So I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, we have so many things we could talk about. But there was something else that I was going to touch on now, but
about self-love.
Yeah. Oh well.
Is there anything else that we want to bring up when it comes to self-love? Because I mean, I feel.
I just.
What is okay?
I don't think it's as difficult as like people talk about it and everything, and I it shouldn't be difficult. I mean, because if you're watching this or listening to this, you deserve to love yourself. You know, you deserve to be good to yourself.
And I want to reiterate something that we both said. It's important to know that we both, I think you would agree, know what it's like to feel in a given moment like that is really difficult.
I do.
Or completely out of reach, or just not it doesn't fully, you can't fully comprehend how that would feel.
Right.
And I feel like it's important for at least now to speak on my own behalf, to say that there's definitely been a journey for me to get to a place where I can talk about self-love and not cringe and not feel like, yeah, like I definitely used to have much more of a self-deprecating attitude towards myself. And at times, yes, I would say like deep loathing feeling towards myself. Like those are things that I've experienced. And I know a lot of people out there still do maybe at this moment. Or just have more of an apathy that borders on negativity, right? Sometimes it might not be that strong, but it's still there and it still sometimes gets in your way. And the thing about that is, it can be difficult to have these kinds of conversations or hear these kinds of conversations without thinking, well, that's easy for that person to say because they clearly have something that I don't. But I'm just going to say this. I don't think so, because there was a time when I felt that exact same way as well.
Yeah.
And it's been a practice. It's been I think the thing that I had was at a certain point making the decision that I was going to make it an important part of my life to develop my relationship with myself consciously. That doesn't mean it was easy, but to treat my relationship with myself as important as I would treat my relationship with another person. Actually, for many years, I think more important. I think I was very focused on myself, and some people are uncomfortable with that because there's this idea that you're self-centered and you need to be, it depends, people pleasers though I think would resonate with this, that you need to be more focused on other people, that's how you become selfless. I disagree with that experience. Having worked through a lot of stuff in my mind. I think it depends on who you are as a person. And for me, sometimes in retrospect, I would say some of my more selfish moments were when I was thinking that I was being more selfless and more outwardly focused. And it was really just me seeking something that I needed to give myself by trying to give it to other people who may or may not have needed that or wanted that from me. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I just want to say that for anyone who might listen to this and struggle with conceiving of how you can develop your own loving relationship with yourself, and to know that everyone's journey is different. And some of the tools that we use and like tarot and hypnosis have been powerful tools for us on our journeys of self-love. But there are different tools out there. There's different ways. There's just, it can be so simple. But if you feel like you need to engage with therapy, with any kind of healing modality out there to help you on your journey, like those are very powerful things that can definitely help. But it can be just as simple as one choice at a time in one moment of awareness of just either self-acceptance or taking an action or step that you know is healthy for you, good for you, just going to be something that you need in that moment. Just, it can be that simple. And it is not something that you have to feel. You don't have to feel over the moon about yourself all the time to be loving towards yourself. You really don't.
Well, I think it's impossible anyway. Yeah, you'd be exhausted if you felt all the time, right?
Yeah. Well, and
you need some
and I think that
neutral time.
The table. I think that goes into neutral time, just being at peace. Again, I feel like when I'm in a flow state, when we're in our most aligned states, we're not thinking about whether or not we love ourselves. But I do think that thought process can be helpful to help us move out of certain mind spaces that we might want to move out of, and develop those practices so it becomes much more of our self-concept, so we don't have to think about it all the time. Maybe you start from a place of being really conscious and aware of, what do I need in this moment? Am I loving myself in this moment? How am I feeling about myself in this moment? But eventually, I feel like the goal is to kind of have that become just part of your experience to the point where it's more natural and you don't think about it so much.
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of time when we don't love ourselves, and when we are not even aware of it. Like I think I had decades of that, and having experiences of not loving myself and not being considerate of myself and feeling unworthy, and and even unlovable at times, right? So if you feel unlovable, then that's an indication that you're not loving yourself. So
yes,
like bringing awareness is a big part of it, And you said something that made me think that I wanted to say, listen, you don't have to go it alone either. Like Juliana was pointing out, there are all different modalities there, that can help you and, stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, if you think of it in terms of, rather than just like focusing on self-love, but thinking of it in terms of building a relationship with yourself, just like if you're in a relationship with someone else, romantic or otherwise, and you're building that relationship, you're not going to feel over the moon ecstatic about each other 100% of the time, necessarily. Maybe there's some people who feel like that, but a lot of people feel like it's a journey. There's ups, there's downs. And if you can consider love as something that doesn't have to be constant, like, everything's great, like, I feel like there's even an even greater sense of love in the acceptance of the journey, the acceptance of the ups and downs, the willingness to work with yourself when you're feeling like you're a little hard to work with. And the openness to meeting yourself where you're at and being like, I'm still here, buddy. Let's keep going, maybe we can accept ourselves where we are and also take the steps that we need to take to be where we want to go. And just like that commitment that this reminds me of actually the book All About Love by Bell Hooks, which I'm not going to get into right now. I feel like it's become very much of a pop culture phenomenon recently, or at least to an extent, because I've been seeing more people talk about it, and it's like a 20-year-old book at least. I'm pretty sure Bell Hooks has passed away, maybe 5 years ago at this point. I don't know. But it is still relevant, I would say, to our society today, having been written 20 years ago, even though things feel like they're moving and changing so fast. I feel like a lot of what she says in that book, I think it would resonate with a lot of modern audiences, because you kind of see the through line of her concerns about where society's headed continuing to balloon and boil over. And a lot of her concerns are about what she perceives as lack of love in the way society is, and her proposal of love not just being something that is innate and automatically intuitive and understood by everyone, and a feeling that you have, but as something that you act out, something that you act on. So she has components of it, and one of them is commitment, and another one's acceptance, and another one's knowledge and understanding, things like that. But I feel like that is really helpful, especially for people who feel like they have less of an understanding of what love even is and feels like for themselves or for others. But self-love is just something that she also talks about in that book. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole thing.
All right, just say the title one more time.
All About Love. I think All About Love, New Visions. And it's by Bell Hooks. Lowercase B-E-L-L, lowercase H-O-O-K-S, because she always wrote her name lowercase. I don't actually know why. But yeah, so that can be a resource for some of you who maybe haven't heard of that and are interested in broadening your understanding of love and finding ways that you can maybe bring it more into your life. I do think it's important to tie a lot of any goals that you have, or even if they're just like love, less concrete, to something concrete in your life. Tie that goal of bringing more love into your life to a concrete step that you take, an action that you take. It can be small, but I feel like that's a really good place to start. It anchors it in a lot more than just thinking about it does, at least for me, and maybe other people would resonate with that as well. So maybe reading that book.
For those of you who watched me struggle with my sweater during that. That was just because our office heat is really loud. So we have to keep the heat off.
Yeah, so it's cold in here right now.
So while Juliana was talking, I was like, I got to get my sweater on. So and trying to do while I was just sitting here. It was
for those of you who are just listening, maybe you're on a different platform. We do post video versions on YouTube, so we also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so if you're watching, you saw me struggling with my sweater as Juliana.
Yeah. I noticed it, but I was just like, I'm just going to keep going.
There was nothing stopping you.
I'm going to ignore that. So anything else to say on this topic?
I don't think so. I think, I do want to just reiterate, you're the most important person in your life. Hands down. And if you're not, you should be.
I think that's a really nice...
And you did touch on tools earlier, and I will say, if you are interested in hypnosis, we are hypnotists, and you can go to our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. You can email us at info@sunflowerphilosophy.com.
Yes, and as I did say, hypnosis has been, I feel like, one of the most important tools of my recent years to really helping me just feel the sense of peace and confidence in myself. So
agreed. I don't think either one of us would be sitting here right now without it.
Yeah, doing this podcast, talking to people on the internet. What? Yeah. Also, I'm a tarot reader as well, and that's been an important self-discovery journey. So if you're interested in checking out my reading style, we do have a Sunflower Philosophy Tarot YouTube channel, so you can check that out on YouTube for pick-a-card readings. And if I've got personal readings open, then you can check that out on our website as well. So, okay. I guess now that we're kind of signing off.
I think we'll sign off and do part 2, respect.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, before it gets too cold.
But for now, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for listening this far, and we will see you soon for another episode.
Bye for now.